Okay, number one, it says 2x plus 5 is equal to 25. And we are going to solve for x. So here we're going to draw our line. 2x plus 5 is equal to 25. We're going to subtract 5 from both sides. If I can get my thing right. That makes a 0 pair. So we have 2x is equal to 25 minus 5 is 20. And then divide both sides by 2. X is equal to 10. Down at the bottom says CK, and that stands for check. So we're going to plug in our answer back into the problem. So we have 2 times x, which is 10, plus 5 is equal to 25. And you can check that with your calculator. So you have 2 parentheses 10 plus 5 is equal to, and that comes out to 25. So since 25 is equal to 25 is true, then we know our answer is correct. Number 2, we have 3x minus 6 is equal to negative 9. So we're going to do a simple two-step problem. Since it says minus 6, we're going to add 6. That's a 0 pair. We have 3x left over. Negative 9 plus 6. If you need to do your scoreboard, you can do your scoreboard. You have 9 negatives, 6 positives. The negatives are winning and they're up by 3 points, so it's a negative 3. And then divide both sides by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so you have 1x is equal to negative 3 divided by 3 is a negative 1. To check your answer, we're just going to plug in x back into my original problem. So we have 3 times x is negative 1 minus 6 is equal to negative 9. So we can type that in to the calculator. So we have 3 parentheses negative 1 and then minus 6 is equal to negative 9. So I have here negative 9 is equal to negative 9, and since that is true, we know our answer is correct. Number 3, x divided by 2 plus 4 is equal to 16. So a simple two-step. We have a plus 4, so we're going to subtract 4. So I have an x divided by 2 left over. 16 minus 4 is 12. And then we are going to get x by itself. Since that says x divided by 2, we're going to do the opposite, which is multiplication. So those cross out. We have x is equal to 12 times 2 is 24. So now we're going to check it. We have 24 divided by 2 plus 4 is equal to 16. So we can type that in the calculator. 24 divided by 2 plus 4. It comes out to 16. So we have 16 is equal to 16. And since that is true, we know our answer here is correct. Number 4 says write the equation for the table, asking what's the domain, what's the range, and if it is a function. First thing we can do for the equation, we can figure out what our slope is and our y-intercept. So our y-intercept is the easiest one to find. It's right there in the table, 0, negative 4. So that one's done. The only thing you need is your slope, which is change in y over change in x. So we can go ahead and do our little arrows to figure out what our change in y is and what our change in x is. So my change in x is going up by 1. Change in y is going up from negative 2 to negative 7, you add 3. Negative 7, negative 4, you add 3, and add 3. So my change in y is a 3. Change in x is a 1. 3 divided by 1 is 3. So now I have the two things I need to write my equation. Y equals mx plus b. I know m, I know b, so y equals, my slope is 3. Don't forget your x. My b is a negative 4, so we're going to put minus 4. To check your answer, we can use stat edit and put x is in L1, y is in L2. So stat edit, L1, our x values go from -2 to 2. L2 are our y values, -10, -7, -4, -1, and 2. So -10, -7, -4, -1, and 2. Once you do that, and my calculator froze, which is wonderful. Once you do that, you go stat, over to calc, and you hit the number 4 and hit enter. And then that will get you your equation y equals 3x minus 4. What is the domain and what is the range? We can write down x, y, ID the doctor. So independent, dependent, domain, and range. So domain are my x values, range are my y values. So for domain, you just do fancy brackets, and we're just going to list out my x values. -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. For my range, we list out my y values. -10, -7, -4, -1, and 2. Last question says, is this a function? And if you look at your x values, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2, none of those repeat, so yes, it is. And that's because your x's do not repeat. Alright, number 5 says, given the equation you have y equals 5 minus x, what is the range for the table below? There's two ways you can do this. You can plug in your x values into the equation and do it by hand. So you have y equals 5 minus a -4, y equals 5 minus a -1, y equals 5 minus 2, and so on. The other way is with your calculator. I'm going to fix this real quick. Alright, so let me get my calculator pulled back up. Alright, so now let's try it. When you have our equation, which was y equals 5 minus x, we can put that in y equals 5 minus x. We can look at our table, and the range are our y values, so we can just copy. So when x is -4, we can go up here -4. My y is 9. X was -1. Y is 6. X is 2. Y is 3. When x is 4, my y is 1. And then when x is 7, my y is a -2. Alright, number 6 says an electrician's service charge is represented by the function C equals 2250 times H plus 35. C is the service charge and H is the number of hours worked during the service call. If the electrician works 5 hours, how much will the electrician charge? Record your answer and fill in the bubbles on the grid. So we have this equation and we also know that the electrician works 5 hours. So this right here tells us that H is equal to 5. So all we're going to do is plug it into the equation. So we have C equals 2250 times H. Well, H is 5 plus 35. And we can just plug that into the calculator. So we have 2250 times those 5 hours plus, we have that $35 attached to the end. We hit enter, we get $147.50. So we have 147.5. When you bubble in your answer, You don't have to put the positive. That's an option. You can if you want. You don't have to. If it did come out to be a negative, you would have to definitely bubble in the negative. But for positive, that's an option. Then we're just going to write in 1, 4, 7, our decimal, and 5. If you want to put a 0 at the end, you can. It won't hurt your answer. So then we just bubble it in. So there's your 1. And then we have, let's see, that's a 0. Sorry, that's a 0. Here's your 1. This one right here is 1. 4, 7, your decimal, and then 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, number 7. In the equation 1.5x plus 3y equals 21, what is the value of x when y is equal to 2? So we know y is equal to 2, so that's what we're going to plug in right here for y. So we're just going to plug in that 2 and solve for x. So when we do this, we have 1.5x plus 3 times my y, which is 2, is equal to 21. 1.5x plus 3 times 2 is 6 is equal to 21. Now you have a simple two-step equation. Subtract 6 from both sides. Those cross out. We have 1.5x is equal to 21 minus 6. You'll get your 15. Divide both sides by that 1.5. X is equal to, and you can type in the calculator, just 15 divided by 1.5. And we get 10. Once you get your answer, you should plug it back in to check to make sure you did it correctly. So we have 1.5 times x. Well, we just figured out that x is 10 plus 3 times y. We have here that y is 2, and when we type that in the calculator, it should come out to 21. So we have 1.5 times 10 plus 3 times 2, and that should come out to 21, and it does. So here, since 21 is equal to 21, and that's true, we know our answer is correct. Okay, number 8, in the equation 5x plus 4.2y is equal to 36, what is the value of x when y is equal to 5? So again, we're given y, so we're going to plug that in all the way over here for y, and then solve for x. So we have 5x plus 4.2 times my y is 5, is equal to 36. So you have 5x plus, you can type in the calculator, 4.2 times 5. Okay, and we get 21. So we have plus 21 is equal to 36. And we're just solving for x, simple two steps. So subtract 21 from both sides. Those cross out. You're going to get 5x is equal to 36 minus 21. You have 15. Divide both sides by 5. You'll get x is equal to 3. And you shouldn't miss this question on your test at all, either one of these, because then once you know x is 3, you can plug it back into your calculator and make sure you have the correct answer. So we have 5 times x, which is 3, plus 4.2 y, we know y is 5, and when you type that in, it should come out to be 36. So we'll type it in the calculator, 5 times 3, plus the other half of it was 4.2 times 5. And that's equal to 36. So since 36 is equal to 36 is true, then we know our answer is correct. Alright, number 9, it says a slope of 2/3 means that y increases by what when x increases by what? If you remember, slope is change in y over change in x, and we have a slope of 2/3. So here's my change in y, here's my change in x. So this means that when y increases by, well, y is increasing by 2. When x increases by, well, x is increasing by 3. Number 10, a salesperson's commission C is $500 plus 3% of their total sales S. It tells us to write an equation that represents their commission. and then ask us how do you write 3% as a decimal. We're going to answer that last question first. 3% as a decimal, all you have to do is just move it over twice and put your 0 in the blank. So this would just be 0.03. And then if we go back and read the problem, your salesperson commission C means equals, you have $500 plus 3%. When we write it, we're going to write it as a decimal, 0.03 of their total sales. Remember, of means you're multiplying. We don't know their total sales, so we're going to use S. So C equals 500 plus 0.03 S. Or you can also see it flip-flopped to where it'll say C equals 0.03 S plus 500. These two equations are the exact same thing. It's just flip-flopped, but it'll still get you the same answer. And you can see either one on your test. Alright, number 11. Whoops. Number 11, it says, given the function y equals 6x plus 1, what is the dependent variable? Remember, variables are your letters, like x, y, z, k, c, any of those. And since we're doing dependent variables, we're going to do your DFI. So DFI, just matching it up with our variables. Remember, the function goes over the equal sign, matched up with our variable. So what we don't care about is our numbers. Our constants, we can cross those out. Those should automatically be eliminated on your test. So dependent variable, dependent starts with your letter D. We have that labeled as Y. So that is your answer. Write 6 times x plus 1 in words. So we have 6 times x plus 1. Number 12. Rewrite the equation 3 times x minus 4y equals 4 in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b because you can figure out your slope and your y-intercept. So when we rewrite this, there's only the 2 steps. The first one's called your exciting move because you have to move the x, so it's exciting. Whatever you did not circle, we're going to rewrite. So I have a negative 4y is equal to. When you move it, you change the sign. So he's positive. When he moves over here, he's going to become negative. And then we have a 4 at the end. And then the second step is called your great divide. So you're going to divide everything in here by whatever's in front of your y because we want it to end up just being y by itself. So there's a negative 4 out front. So we're going to divide everything by that negative 4. So those cross out and give us 1. So we have 1y is equal to, you can type this in your calculator and hit math and enter. It will reduce it for you. So you have negative 3 divided by negative 4. When you hit math, enter, it reduces it down to 3/4 x. And if you want to do that back here, you can also do that for divided by negative 4. And you can hit math, enter, and it's negative 1. So there's your equation in slope-intercept form. I'm actually going to take it a step further because the reason why you want it in slope-intercept form is so you can identify 2 things, your slope and your y-intercept. Slope is whatever your constant is in front of x, which is 3/4. Your y-intercept is the constant that is at the back. That's a negative 1, so my y-intercept is 0, negative 1. Now, you don't have to do that. I'm just showing you a step further for the question that's coming up. Number 13 says, what will happen to the slope of the line if the line is shifted so that the y-intercept increases and the x-intercept remains the same? Okay, well first we're going to label this as our x-axis and our y-axis. So when it's talking about the y-intercept, you're going to look at the y-axis. When it talks about the x-intercept, you look at the x-axis. So it tells us the y-intercept increases. It doesn't matter where up here you move it as long as it's increasing. So here's my y-intercept. It has to increase, so let's just say I put it here. X-intercept remains the same. So here's my x-axis, here's my x-intercept, and that's going to stay the same. So I'm not going to move it anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect these 2 dots to make our new line. Okay, and then the question says, does the slope increase or decrease? Well, think about it. If you were skiing on this mountain, and you got to the bottom and you went to another mountain and you started skiing on here, okay, ask yourself, am I going to go faster or slower on this red line compared to the original? Well, you're going to be going faster. So why do you go faster? Because that mountain is steeper. Well, what makes it steeper? Your slope had to increase. Right, number 14 says, what is the slope of 2x minus 3y equals 3? So this is in standard form. We want it in slope-intercept form where it says y equals mx plus b. That way we can identify the slope. So again, we're going to do our 2 steps. The first one is going to be your exciting move because you have to move the x, so it's exciting. You have a negative 3y left over. When you move the 2x, it's positive, so it's going to become negative. And we have a 3 at the end we're going to attach. Again, you want y by itself, so the last step is your great divide. And that number in front of the y is a negative 3. Those cross out, we'll end up with y equals negative 2 divided by negative 3. Again, if you need to type it in, negative 2 divided by negative 3 and hit math and enter to reduce your fraction, you can. Comes out to 2/3. Don't forget your x. 3 divided by negative 3 is just negative 1. So here's your equation in slope-intercept form, and from that you can identify the slope. Slope is whatever's in front of x. I have a 2/3 in front of x, so my slope is 2/3. Number 15 says for the order pairs you have 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, negative 1, and 4, negative 3. What is the domain, range, and is it a function? Okay, well we're going to write down ID the doctor again to help us remember. So you have independent, dependent, domain, and range. Domain is x, range is y. If you need to, you can label every order pair as x and a y, x and a y, x and a y, and x and a y. All you're going to do is just copy down the x's and copy down the y's. So domain are my x's, which is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Range are my y's. We have 3, 1, a negative 1, and a negative 3. You can also see this written in order from least to greatest. So you can see it as negative 3, negative 1, 1, and 3. They both would be correct. So it says, is this a function? All you need to do is look at your x values. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4. None of those repeated. So yes, it is a function because x's do not repeat. Alright, number 16. It says, what does y do? So you have slope. You have this x box where it tells you as x increases by what number, what happens to y. So if you remember, slope is change in y over change in x. Okay, so here's my change in y, here's my change in x. So as x increases by 4, they're getting that from this. What's happening to y? Well, I have a positive 3, so y increases by 3. This next one, again, we're going to label it as change in y over change in x. So here's your change in y, here's your change in x. As x increases by 2, okay, my x is increasing by 2 because it's a positive. So we're asking what's happening to y. Well, because it's a negative 1, that negative tells us that it's going to decrease. So we're going to put here y decreases by 1. You don't put a negative 1 because the negative represents decreases. So decreases tells me that this is going to be negative. The last one we have 2. So here's my change in y over change in x. Okay, your change in y over change in x is a fraction format. To put this into a fraction, you just put it over 1. Anytime it's a whole number, just put it over 1. So here's my change in y, here's my change in x. So as x increases by 1, they got the 1 from your denominator. What's happening to y? Well, it's positive and it's a 2, so y increases by 2. Okay, number 17. If you're given the 4 cards below, which cards produce the same slope-intercept equation as card 1? So here's card 1. It's in slope-intercept form because y equals mx plus b. So we know 2 things from this. Your slope has to be 2, and the y-intercept has to be 1. So if we look at card number 2, it's not in slope-intercept form. So we're going to go ahead and put it in slope-intercept form. It's in standard. So we're going to do our exciting move. And when we do that, we have a y left over. When you move it, you change the sign, so it's a negative 2x plus 1. So my slope here is a negative 2. My y-intercept is 0, 1. So it's asking which ones are the same as card number 1. Well, my slope is not the same, so this is not going to work because my equation is not going to look like y equals 2x plus 1. You have a negative. Card number 3, if I want to write an equation, I have my slope and y-intercept. So if I did in slope-intercept form, I have y equals 2x. My y-intercept is 1 plus 1. That matches this 2x plus 1, so card 3 would work. Card number 4 gives me a slope of 2, and the line passes through the point 0, 1. Well, if you notice, anytime when x is 0, that's your y-intercept. So again, this is just telling me that my b is equal to 0, 1. So when I write my equation, y equals mx, so that's 2x plus b. My b is just 1. So that matches this equation here, so that one's correct. So the cards that produce the same slope-intercept equation as this would be card 3 and card 4. Alright, number 18 says write an expression for 2 times the sum of a number and 1. When you see this word times the sum, you're going to have parentheses. So we have 2 times the sum of a number and 1. We don't know what number it is, so you can use x, you can use n, any variable, and that's it. We don't have to solve nothing. So 2 times the sum, anytime you see that, you have to have those parentheses, a number and 1. 19, write an expression for twice a number is at most 12. So we have twice a number, so 2x is at most. That means you cannot go over that 12. You're going to use an inequality. At most means it's going to be less than or equal to 12. And we're not solving, we're just writing out the expression. Alright, number 20. What is the domain of the function graph below? Okay, so remember, if you need to do your little ID of the doctor, independent, dependent, domain, and range. Domain is x. So what we can do is we can do our box method. So box, circle, x, circle, box. Go ahead and write out these order pairs, which that is negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So negative 5, negative 2. I'm going to label that x and y. And this order pair is 6, negative 2. Label that x and y. Okay, so domain are my x's, so all I care about are my x's. Put them order from least to greatest, so I'm going from negative 5 to 6. So in my box, I'm going to put negative 5 and 6. You always, always, always use your less than signs, but where you're going to look now is and see if you have a little something, something, or if it's plain and simple. So here at negative 5, negative 2, I have a little something, something. So since I have a little something, something in here, I need to put a little something, something underneath there. Or you can say, since that's a closed circle, that means it's equal to, so I have to have an equal sign. This one is plain and simple, so I'm going to leave that one plain and simple. Or you can say, since it's an open circle, it's not equal to. So I'm going to rewrite it. Negative 5 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 6. (21) says circle all the statements that describe the slope 3 over 4. Okay, well, if you remember, slope is definitely rise over run, so that one is true. Slope is change in y over change in x, that's true. Slope is, okay, now remember your y's go up and down, that's vertical. Your x goes across, that's horizontal, so that's true. The place where the line crosses the y-axis, that is not true. That is called your y-intercept. And the last one says, as x increases by 4, y increases by 3. So let's write this out. M equals 3/4. Change in y over change in x. Okay, so here's my y. Here's my x. So it says, as x increases by 4. That's true because it's a positive 4. Y increases by 3. That's true because my y is a positive 3. So we'll circle that since that is true. Alright, number 22 says, what is the slope? So again, slope is change in y over change in x. So you can do your little brackets thingy, triangle thingies, whatever you want to call them, arrows onto the side. I change in y to go from negative 5 to 5, you're going up by 10. Go from -1 to 4, you're going up by 5. Change in y is 10, change in x is 5. 10 divided by 5 is 2. To check that, you can put in stat edit. X is in L1, y is in L2. So stat edit. My L1 are my x values, which are -1 and 4. L2 is -5 and 5. So stat, over to calc, you hit the number 4. You only have to hit enter once on your calculator. And all we care about is my slope. Calculator uses A instead of M, but it's the same thing. Slope represents slope. So my slope is 2. That's what we have written down. So we know this is correct. Number 23 says what are the x and y intercepts for the equation y equals 3x minus 1? Don't worry that this is in slope-intercept form. You're used to solving this with this being a standard form. It's still the exact same steps. X-intercept. You keep the x, the other is 0. So we're just going to have x and y. So we know y is 0. We're just going to plug that in. So we have 0 is equal to 3x minus 1. And all we have to do is just solve for x. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. That's a 0 pair. 0 plus 1 is 1. You have a 3x left over. And then we're going to divide both sides by 3. So we have x is equal to, if you want to type that in the calculator, you can. 1 divided by 3. And hit math enter. And it'll show you that it doesn't reduce, it's just 1 over 3. So x is equal to 1 over 3. So my x-intercept here would be 1/3, 0. Now for my y-intercept, there's two ways you can do it. You can do it how you did the x-intercept. Y-intercept is 0, y. Label your order pair. So here we know x is 0. And we can plug that in. So we have y equals 3 times x is 0 minus 1. And then just solve. Y equals anything times 0 is 0. So all you have left over is a -1. So my y-intercept here is 0, -1. Or, those of you that realize this is in slope-intercept form, mx plus b, your y-intercept is a -1, which is written as 0, -1. Alright, number 24 says solve for x. You have one set of parentheses, so we're going to distribute your 5 to the 3x and to the 2. 5 times 3x is 15x. 5 times 2 is 10. And that's equal to 35. And then you have a simple two-step problem. So we're going to subtract 10 from both sides. 15x is equal to 35 minus 10 is 25. And we're going to divide both sides by 15. 15 and 15 is 1, so we get x is equal to 25 divided by 15. You can do 25 divided by 15. And you can get this decimal. You can just hit math enter. And it'll give it to you in a fraction. So that's 5/3. So x is equal to 5/3. 25 says draw an algebra tile representation of 2x minus 3 is equal to 5. Okay, so you're going to have to really refresh your memory on this because this is back in like September. 2x, x's are your tall, skinny ones. We have 2 of them. Minus 3, 3 are your little bitty ones. And since it says minus, we're going to shade them in to show that it is a negative. Equal sign, we just draw a line. And then you have 5 positives. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It says what is the best next problem solving step? Well, if you were to just solve this like a simple 2-step, you see you have a minus 3, you would add 3 to both sides. So that's what we're going to say is add 3 to both sides, and then we're going to draw it. So you still have your 2x, you still have the -3, and you still have the 5. But to show that you're adding 3 to both sides, since these are 3 negatives, you want 3 positives. And once you do to one side, you have to do it to the other. And that's just showing that you're adding 3. 26 says you're going to simplify. We have 5x minus 4 minus 8x plus 10. You have two communities. You have your x's, so you have 5x and a negative 8x. And you have your constants, a negative 4 and a positive 10. So we have 5x minus 8x. If you need to do scoreboard, you can. 5 positives, 8 negatives. Your negatives are winning by 3 points, so negative 3x. Or if you need to type in the calculator 5 minus 8, you can type in 5 minus 8, and it will also get you your negative 3. So that takes care of the x's. Then you have negative 4 plus 10. So if you want to do scoreboard, you have 4 negatives and 10 positives. Your positives are winning, and they're up by 6 points, so positive 6. Or if you want to type in the calculator, negative 4 plus 10, negative 4 plus 10, that will also get you your 6. You can't combine x's and constants, so we took care of that, so that's your final answer. 27 says draw lines that represent the following types of slope. You have positive, okay, so it doesn't matter where on here you draw your line, just go straight up. Okay, you can write your name on the line. If it goes up, it's positive. Negative, anywhere on here as long as it goes down. Okay, so again, if you write your name on the line and it goes down, it's negative. 0, there's a couple of ways that I taught y'all to remember this. One is like your heartbeat, okay, whenever it kind of beats and then it goes like that. Okay, bottoms out, flat lines, it's because your heartbeat is 0. So it's just a line straight across. Okay, another way that I've taught y'all to remember this is 0 is whenever you write your name on a paper, your line usually looks like this. If you forget to write your name on your paper though, you're going to get a grade of 0. Undefined is the last one, and that line just goes straight up and down. Kind of hard to write your name on that line. So it says which of the graphs above is not a function? That would be undefined, and the reason why is because it would fail the pencil test. And we're going to write that out in parentheses. Fails pencil test. And what I mean by that, if you remember, is if you take your pencil and put your pencil straight up and down, it only hits the graph, the red line. It only hits it once, once, once. Here, if I took my pencil, went straight up and down, it only hit it one time, one time, one time, one time. Here, though, if I put my pencil on this line, it hits multiple times. Since it hits multiple times, it's because your x repeats. And so this one would not be a function. Alright, number 28, we only have 2 more. It says, how does a graph of y equals 5x plus 3 compare to y equals 5x minus 3? I'm going to put this y equals mx plus b underneath both of them so we can see what changes. So if you notice, they both say y equals. They both have a slope of 5. They both have the x. The only thing that changes is your y-intercept went from a 3 to a negative 3. So what we can do is put both of these equations in our calculator and y equals. So we have 5x plus 3 and then 5x minus 3. So I'm going to hit my graph. So the blue line is my first equation with the plus 3, and you can see because it crosses the y-axis at positive 3. This red line is my second equation. Okay, then you can see it crosses here. My y-intercept is a negative 3. So it says, what happens to the graph? How is the graph changing? Well, from the blue to the red line, if you look at the direction, it's going down. So it shifts down, and you just can do your little bunny hops and count how many units did it go down. So you went from a positive 3 to a negative 3. So you went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units. So here we'll write, how does a graph of y equals 5x plus 3 compare to y equals 5x minus 3? Okay, so we can say y equals 5x minus 3 is 6 units below y equals 5x plus 3. Okay, 29 says, give me an example of a slope that is more steep than m equals 3. Okay, so think about this. You're going skiing. You're on a steeper mountain. It's more steep than the original. So when you go skiing on a steeper mountain, you're going to be going a lot faster. So we need some speed that is faster than 3. So any number greater than 3 would work. So I'm just going to pick m equals 7. You could say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You could say 100. Okay, any number that's greater than 3 would be steeper. And then the last one said, would m equal negative 5 be more steep than m equals 3? Okay, well remember, all the negative does is change direction. So you're just looking at the other side of a mountain. So m is equal to 5. That would be steeper than m equals 3. So we're going to put yes. And the reason why is because the negative changes direction, not steepness. And I'll draw a little picture here, or at least attempt to help show you what I mean. So if you have a mountain, okay, so here's your little snow on your mountain, and you're looking at the steepness, okay, you're looking at your slope. If this right here, if I look at this, it's just a line. If I ignore all this other stuff, this would be a positive slope of 5. If I look at this line, it's going down. If I write my name on this line, it would go down, and it's going to be negative, so this would be negative 5. But if you notice, it's the same steepness. All that happens is the negative changed the direction. So I was going on one side of the mountain, now I'm going on the other side. But it's still the same steepness. So even though it says a negative 5, that doesn't mean that it's not as steep, okay, as m equals 3. It's actually steeper. So that's why I had here, the negative changes the direction, not the steepness. Alright, so that is it. So you can watch this video as many times as you want. Study, 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 study. Okay, and if you need any help, just let me know.